guys, Leah Michelle, Resistance Chicks coming at you. We got a lot coming at you tonight. It is March 1st, 2017. Gotta love Tucker Carlson. Gotta give a skeptic eye to Bill Nye, the science guy.
Who's not actually a real scientist. He was a guy on TV when we were growing up.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know.
The point that I want to show you is that climate science is not set in stone. And climate science has become a religion.
Yes.
And I want you to watch all the way to the end to see what Bill Nye says at the end. It's really creepy. To me, anyways.
Live from outside the U.S. Capitol building, where President Trump will address a joint session of Congress in fewer than 24 hours. You may hear construction noise behind us during the show. That's because there's construction going on. There always is.
Hang on, though. Pause that really quickly. Even on Tucker Carlson, he has construction noise in the background. So for those of you that keep saying, Michelle and Leah, you guys have to get a studio. Kansas Matt's still building that donkey cart. Well, guess what? Even if you're Tucker Carlson, you still got construction.
I want to thank you for that, for sending your tax dollars here. It's a pretty nice place. Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy is now aspiring to a new title, Bill Nye the Psychoanalyst Guy. During a Facebook Live event with Senator Bernie Sanders today, the mechanical engineer and TV personality said, skeptics of global warming suffer from the psychological delusion of cognitive dissonance. It's a slight bump up from last year when he was open to the idea of imprisoning skeptics, global warming, as war criminals. Is that the choice? Bellevue or Nuremberg? Bill Nye joins us now. Bill, it's great to see you. That doesn't sound like science to me, Bill Nye the Science Guy. That sounds like something very different.
So cognitive dissonance is not a delusion. It's a feature. It's human nature. So we in the science community are looking for an explanation why climate change deniers, or extreme skeptics, do not accept the overwhelming scientific evidence for climate change. And the most reasonable explanation is you have a worldview, and then you have evidence, and the evidence disagrees with your worldview, so you deny the evidence, and then along with that, you deny the authorities that are providing the evidence. Now, if you have a better hypothesis for why climate deniers deny the overwhelming scientific evidence, bring it on. It's not a delusion. It's just like the fox and the grapes.
Well,
you can't reach the grapes, so he says the grapes are no good.
Look, people do come to every debate with preconceptions. Fred, you're right about that, of course. But the essence of science is extreme skepticism. We always ought to be asking ourselves, is my hypothesis true?
I'm a member of those skeptic organizations, Mr. Carlson, and this is climate change denial is denial. The evidence is overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, I love you as a person more than life itself, but the evidence for climate change is overwhelming. So we are looking for an explanation of why you guys are having so much trouble with it.
So now, before the name calling begins, and before you try to end the conversation, let's start it by asking what exactly you mean. Now, I think most people are open to the idea that the climate is changing. It has always changed, by the way, as you know.
It's the rate, Mr. Carlson. It's the rate that's such a concern.
The core question, from what I can tell, is why the change? Is it part of the endless cycle of climate change, or is human activity causing it? That seems to be the debate to me, and it seems an open question, not a settled question, to what degree human activity is causing that. Is that
it's not an open question, it's a settled question. Human activity is causing climate change.
To what degree?
To a degree that it's a very serious problem in the next few decades.
Wait, stop. Wait, no, you said it's a settled point, and I'm asking a very precise question.
It's a settled point.
Okay, then if...
This whole time, just to let you know, Tucker Carlson is trying to get him to pin down numbers, and he keeps saying that it's settled, but then he goes on to talk about grapes and...
If you'll elucidate for me, I'd be grateful. To what degree is climate change caused by human activities? 100% of climate change is caused by human activity? Is it 74.3%? It's settled science. Please tell us to what degree human activity is responsible.
So the word degree is a word that you chose, but the speed that climate change is happening is caused by humans. Instead of happening on time scales of millions of years, or let's say 15,000 years, it's happening on a time scale.
Could you just, we just jumped from millions of years to let's say 15,000 years.
And that's the thing that evolutionists get to do, is throw out these ambiguous numbers, whereas you can just if you throw millions at a number, then nobody actually analyzes it, because you can't quantify it. It's just too broad, because the difference between millions and 15,000 is nothing, and you can ask anybody that makes $15,000, they wouldn't care if they had millions or 15.
Scale of decades and now years. Now, I offered
Wait, but hold on. But I mean, to what extent is human activity responsible for speeding that up? I mean, please be more
100%.
precise.
If that's the number you want. Humans are causing it to happen catastrophically fast.
Okay, so at what rate would it have changed without human activity? And you look at know that I'm asking these questions, but they're very basic questions. They're not denial.
So basically, the cycles of climate change, the last ice age we had was tens of thousands of years ago. So bear in mind that in ancient dinosaur days, there was more carbon dioxide. The world was warmer than it is now. There was an inland sea in what is now Wyoming. And I understand you have a member of Congress from Colorado, used to be underwater. And you go to Dinosaur National Park, you can see it. Okay. Yes. But that's millions of years ago. The problem is
I know he's like tens of thousands of years ago.
The rate. Okay. The rate is the problem. Now here's the thing. Half the people in the world live on sea coasts. As we get the ocean a little bit warmer, the ocean's going to expand. And people live on the sea coast are going to be displaced.
If you don't believe in God, then if you look at our map, it just so happens to be that the liberals live on the coast, so maybe the earth is balancing itself out.
But you're not answering my question. You're describing what will happen if this continues. And I'm asking you a simple question. Hold on. I'm asking you a simple question about the rate of climate change. You said that it would be happening, but that rate has accelerated because of human activity. And I'm asking you very simply.
Accelerated is an understatement. Okay? It's happening extraordinarily
I'm asking you a simple question. And because the science is settled, I hope you can answer it in simple terms, which is, without human activity, how long would it have taken for us to reach this level of warmth?
This is a very simple question.
It's not clear that it would have happened. In other words, humans have changed the climate so drastically that we've almost certainly avoided another ice age. There would have been another ice age, ain't going to happen because of you and me. So the sooner we get to work on this problem,
when would it have happened?
When would the next ice age have happened?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Without human activity, what would the process?
It's irrelevant, he said.
That I hope our viewers.
You said there definitely would have been a next ice age. When would it have definitely been? It's irrelevant.
So then first of all, before he says it's irrelevant, he switches it to, well, it's not going to happen because of what we've done. We will not have an ice age because we are warming the earth.
But when would it have happened?
Well, that's irrelevant.
First, understand, I'm not in any way denying that the climate is changing. I'm utterly open to the possibility that the change is caused by man's activity. I'm merely calling into question your claim that all of this is settled, that we know precisely what is happening and why, and that anyone who asks pointed questions about it is a denier and ought to be imprisoned or shouted off the stage.
No, that was your word. That's you guys.
No, that was your word. You really did say that. That's what you do say.
That's not my claim, and I really.
Yeah,
would you like me to read your quote? That people who disagree with you ought to potentially go to jail. You said that.
Okay.
And I'm just saying,
I'm not sure that's exactly what I said.
No, that's what he said.
Mr. Carlson, we can talk about that shortly, but.
Is it appropriate to jail the guys from Enron? Was it appropriate to jail the people in the cigarette industry who promised it wasn't addictive? Etc.
Okay.
Look, my only point is, shouldn't we be encouraging people to ask honest questions, which I am doing, and you don't seem to have the answers to those questions.
Okay, I got to disagree with you. I claim I do have the answers.
Okay.
Okay. So let me ask you this: why aren't you concerned about it? Don't you have 4 children?
Tucker never said he wasn't concerned about it. He was just trying to ask him.
Bill Nye is really spinning because he's really grasping at straws here.
Why aren't you concerned?
I am concerned. That's why I'm having you on. You don't reach correct conclusions in science or politics or any other field unless you can ask honest answers without being shouted down by people like you.
But I know what you mean.
So I just read an article that said that a good majority of scientific research, when they do their testings and things like that, cannot be replicated by somebody else in another lab.
The results that they're getting.
So
no, I want to know what would happen without human activity. The climate change. No, it's a simple question. The climate is always changing. You've conceded that. You're saying that human activity has increased the speed.
Yeah.
Increases the speed of that change. And my point is, what would the climate look like right now without human activity?
At what point would it have 1750? Britain would not have changed during that period. Yes, Britain would not be very well suited to growing grapes as it is today. French winemakers would not be buying land to the north as they are now. People who plan to run ski resorts would still be able to do it in Europe. And so the climate change and the parasites...
You're using the language of politics. Look, you're not scientists, as you know. You're a popularizer.
I'm using the language of economics.
But so I'm just saying,
you asked what it would
to the extent that you prevent people...
Okay,
if you prevent people from having an honest conversation, you're doing a grave disservice to science. Don't you think that?
So... You asked how long it would be before, what the climate would be like if humans weren't involved right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
So
at what point would it have changed? And I'm just saying, you don't actually know because it's unknowable.
So this is how long it takes you to interrupt me. Okay, it takes you quite a bit less than 6 seconds. So the climate would be like it was in 1750. And economics would be that you could not grow wine-worthy grapes in Britain as you can today, because the climate is changing. The use of pesticides in the Midwest would not be increasing because the parasites are showing up sooner, or the pests are showing up sooner and hanging around longer.
I think that's probably all true, but you
would not be overwhelmed by pine bark beetles as it is.
Right.
Because of climate change. That's how
so much of this you don't know. You pretend that you know, but you don't know, and you believe people who ask you questions.
I really have to disagree with you. I spent a lot of time with this topic.
I'm open-minded. You are not, and we're out of time, unfortunately.
So
thank you for joining us.
You guys are the mainstream media, and I can tell you why they're leaks. Because the president has created 2 factions in his administration. They don't like each other, so they leak. It's not from the outside; it's from the inside. Carry on, Mr. Carlson. I'm sure we will cross paths again.
That's a very ominous thing to say. I don't know what it means, but come back anytime.
I'm so sorry. And I watch these videos back and I see my face and I just realized, that was probably the most boring Michelle face. I had not seen this at all. So you got my undivided, holy cow, I can't believe this is what I'm watching reaction. I'm really sorry about that. But that was the most enjoyable. That was terribly enjoyable, actually. Well done, Tucker. Exchange I have ever seen in my entire... It's so as plain as the nose on my face that Bill Nye literally was changing the subject to an agenda, because here's the thing.
Climate change is an agenda. It's not about saving the environment.
It's not about climate change deniers or anything like that.
They have to put you in a box. That's what they have to do.
They have to tug at your heartstrings.
Right.
Okay, and they have to talk about pesticides and not being able to grow certain grapes in wines in Britain and all this crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh, no ski resorts. Oh my gosh, look what you've done.
You have to pull at people's hearts instead of just being literally scientific. Now, he finally did answer the question. He said, the climate would look much like it looked like in 1750. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, curiously, I'm not exactly going to be able to go there with him, because all he was saying right then is that in 1750 is when things started to sort of industrialize and man started to sort of do things. I think that's where he was going, because other than that, there's no way to pinpoint.
Cars and things didn't come out to the 1920s, so wouldn't he go back to the 1920s?
I don't know what he was trying to...
It wasn't widely, 1950s.
Well, I think his kind of spread of mankind, I have no idea really where he was coming up with this,
we
out of a hat.
Do not deny that there is some sort of climate change happening
and we actually do not deny that some of it is caused by man.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The climate has always gone up and down and up and down, and we have to be able to discuss. And you feel free to leave your comments in here and have open discussions.
Right.
From a creationist point of view, we saw a movie that's going to replay on Thursday, and it made a really good point.
It's called Is Genesis History. It was not worldwide. It was nationwide here in America. One night event in movie theaters. We went to it. You should try and search it out. Is Genesis History.
So if you come at it through a global flood, which is not impossible to imagine,
because we had ice ages, which are similar. Not really
it would
similar,
have
but
caused a great ice age, which would have then flooded, which would have then filled up land masses,
right.
And you've got, like he said, in the inner parts of Western America, you have these giant lakes that were there, and you've got sea aquatic fossils within the rocks.
Right.
And as the waters receded, then you've got land. And it was really interesting because one thing he said was the climate has always been warming since the Ice Age.
Right.
And so as a creationist, I found that to be probable in my mind.
Right.
I like to take science just like I do everything else. I do filter it through the Word of God. I also filter it with something that makes sense within me. Mm-hmm. Not just something that has been spewed upon me, because Darwinian evolution is by no means a settled science. Especially this created this, and the finches and all these different things.
Well, it's not science at all, because science is something that can be either notably recorded or reproduced in testing.
Right.
And there is no notable record of an evolution at all. There's no evolutionary fossils. There's no in-betweens. There's no transitional fossils at all.
And they just found like tissue on a dinosaur, which if it was millions years old would have been impossible. So I am not a creationist expert. I can't debate you on it. And I'm not going to. And if you are full-fledged evolution, that's fine. But there are people who believe in creation, who look at the same science that you do, and who love science and love to learn things. But when we try to push in any of our ideas that we've seen,
you get shut down.
You are shut down every single time because there is an agenda.
Right. Well, and it's like Bill Nye actually said. He said, we all have a worldview, and you filter through your worldview.
If anything doesn't line up with evolution,
they chuck it.
There's a lot.
Oh my gosh, there's so much.
That doesn't line up with evolution. You've got ages that are supposed to line up, and then somehow they're below each other.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. How did this happen? So then you have to rechange your thing to fit this narrative. Whereas if everybody was open-minded, you might be able to discuss things like regular scientists. That's what's real frustrating for creationist scientists, that they're not allowed at universities, they're not allowed to discuss science, and they all have the same view on current science and science that has been repeated and repeatable.
Right.
And so we have to be able to have these open discussions and not say climate science is undeniable, and this is undeniable, and this is undeniable, because you weren't there.
Right.
Right? Okay.
You weren't, and that really sums it up, though, because there is no way to prove one way or the other, right? So it's either Big Bang, which is really the only, or aliens. I know there's a lot of evolutionists that believe in aliens. I'm like, if you're going to believe in alien, why not God? But so you've got the Big Bang in one corner, and you've got the Big God in the other corner, and the Big Bang seems to me far more improbable.
Right.
Of being, and I've used this before, I've said it in a conversation, I picked it up from one of our creationists. Evolution is like a tornado going through a junkyard.
Right.
And creating a Boeing 747 aircraft with a tornado. I mean, that is the intricacies of the randomness that would have had, and actually it's even more than that. You know what I mean? It's way more complex. That's just like bringing it down. To
discuss which came first, chicken or the egg.
Exactly, because there's so many life ways that, like, your DNA and just different things that quote unquote could not have evolved, because it's a, like, let's say 3-process system, A, B, and C. They all need each other to work, and if B isn't there, it literally, that process will not work. And so you can't have it have evolved, because it never would have worked otherwise. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and the fact that creationists aren't even allowed to come to the table with a theory that is actually far more probable than the Big Bang doesn't make it, it proves, again, the agenda that's trying to be pushed. Which Bill Nye, I mean, I actually kind of felt a little sorry for him in this. Tucker was laughing at him. Tucker, you laughed at him a lot. Okay, all right, this is Lee Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks, and ring the bell for notifications so you get an email every time we put out new videos, and find us on Facebook, where we can interact with you guys there on a daily basis. This concludes our episodes for today, March 1st, 2017. Come back again tomorrow.
Was cold, all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you called my name.